So now you know you're being recorded, and I'm going to stop my share so Laura can go ahead and put her wonderful first slide up. And while she's doing that, I'm going to introduce her. Oh, there's a bird I haven't seen. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Laura Kammermeier tonight. She is Cornell Lab of Ornithology business manager for the Birds of the World. And in our conversations earlier, she is a self-confessed bird nerd. So she is like the rest of us, that a lot of us that are on this the call. Now, I kind of met Laura. She was part of a webinar presented by Cornell Lab of Ornithology about birds of the world, and I attended that. And I heard that, and I said, "Oh, we need that to happen in our area." And I contacted Laura, and she graciously accepted, and we are so happy to have her tonight. Laura has a master's degree in ecology and 25 years experience in community science, digital marketing, communications. She's done so many different things. She's coordinated community science programs and built a business offering digital marketing services to environmental nonprofits. Whew, I have to take a breath after that one. Travel the world as a birding travel writer. She's run a multi-author travel blog, and now she's returned to the Cornell Lab to work for the Birds of the World full time. She focuses her free time at home when she's not working remotely or at the lab itself, watching birds. And she's also busy rewilding her property for birds and other wildlife. I like the sound of that, rewilding. And she thinks that the authoritative content of Birds of the World is worthy of going to a growing network of birders, scientists, nonprofits, and academic libraries around the world. And I agree wholeheartedly. So tonight, Laura's going to take us on a tour of the Birds of the World, and it is the world's leading scholarly, dynamic avian life history platform. She's going to give us a tour of this resource and point out some of its lesser known features. And real important thing she's going to do is discuss how this unique publication fits into the Cornell Lab's larger mission to bend the curve for the birds. So I know you'll enjoy it, and I'm going to turn off my camera and mute my microphone and turn it over to Laura, and please put your questions in the chat. We'll handle those at the end. Thank you, Laura.
Oh, thank you, Patsy. I so appreciate the invitation to be here today and to speak to everyone out there, whether you're with the Texas Audubon or Lois from California. And I think this is a great opportunity to kind of get Birds of the World information in front of the Texas Master Naturalists, because it's a great resource to have, a reference tool for people and practitioners who are teaching others about birds. As Patsy said, I'm basically a bird lover and a conservationist at heart. I do everything I can through my work and through my play and through work at home to save birds, right? To protect bird populations and to teach others about what they can do to make, incremental improvements so they can help birds as well. So it's just really a privilege to be here, and I'm happy to tell you a little bit about Birds of the World. So yes, my role at the lab is to serve as the business manager for Birds of the World. And ultimately, my main goal is to make sure that this gets in the hands of the widest group of people possible so that it can start making a difference. And today I plan to kind of cover three things. I want to teach you about Birds of the World and what you can get out of it, what it is, what you can do with it. Then I'm going to tell you a little bit about how it connects to the lab's larger conservation mission, and tell you about the people and the partnerships that we've developed along the way that keeps this engine running here at the lab. So yes, inside Birds of the World, you could find a definitive life history of every bird in the world. It's global, it's scholarly, it's collaborative, and it's dynamic. Birds of the World essentially allows you to discover the birds of your world, near and far. So whether it's the long-billed thrasher, the scissor-tailed flycatcher, the barn or owl, it's going to tell you about anything that answer any question you have about birds in your backyard or beyond. The bedrock of Birds of the World, it's its 10,824 species accounts, and also its 249 bird family accounts. Bird family accounts are actually kind of hard to find. Information on this information has been largely inaccessible, a lot of it buried in some academic textbooks, but we make it very easy to understand and to view the bird families. And we have plates for every genus and species, and gives you information on bird families across the world too, that helps you visualize avian diversity across the globe. Birds of the World is the result of merging 4 celebrated ornithology texts. Each was a significant milestone in its own, and they were merged into a single publication. So those four texts was Birds of North America and Neotropical Birds, which you might be familiar with already. These were online resources that the lab had already had in its collection, but they were separate at the time. And then there was the Handbook of Birds of the World, which was initially a 17-volume set, and then eventually put also to the web. And we acquired that information from Lynx Editions, which is a publishing company out of Spain. And we also acquired the bird families of the world information as well. We updated everything to the Clemens taxonomy, and we inserted it into a single online resource. And, as said, updated all the taxonomy and merged the content and made everything work together. And we launched on March 4th, 2020. So now all of this great information is located in one resource. We also, to this scholarly content, we also added an expanded collection of multimedia from the Macaulay Library. The Macaulay Library is also a lab resource, and it's a wildlife media archive where people just like you and me, or professionals, or anyone who wants to share their photos and videos are able to store them, archive them online, and then provide us access and researchers access for nonprofit and research use to images. So this has given us an amazing collection of bird photos and videos. And since we launched, we've also been able to add images from the Oriental Bird Club, which gives us a massive access to collections of Asian birds, as well as the Internet Bird Collection, which did much to expand our collection of Old World species. So again, working with the Macaulay Library allows us to dynamically pull in hundreds of thousands of images of birds, as well as videos, as well as sound recordings. So this is really giving you the 3D aspect of what a bird looks like across every stage of its life cycle. The resource also gives you full color scientific illustrations for every bird, as well as every subspecies. There's just a few gaps here and there. We actually have a plan and an artist, working with us to develop, to kind of fill in some of those gaps. But what these scientific illustrations do is provide really high quality, very accurate illustrations that allow you to study differences in birds within and across species. Of course, one of the most important things that we want to know as birders is, where does this bird belong? What is the range of the species? So of course, we pull in information for dynamic range maps as well as static range maps from eBird. And if you haven't heard of what eBird is, I'll be talking about it a lot today. It's a citizen science project focused on birds. It allows people like you and me who like to bird in the field to again, sort of archive our own bird observations. And it allows scientists to then take that data and use it to tell fascinating stories about how birds move across the earth in space and time. So within every species account that you have for birds of the world, like what I'm looking at here is the black-throated blue warbler. It gives us a simple distribution map, right? Which you'll see that on the left here. That distribution map is a simple one, easy to read. You've got the breeding range as well as the migration range. And then of course in blue, we've got the wintering range. But we also, because of the participation in eBird and how it's blossomed over the many years, the 20 years that this has been going, we were also able to produce these animated abundance maps. I call them animated migration maps because I think that's a little bit easier to understand. But as you're watching this map animate over time, what you're watching is the populations move, and the gradations in color reflect the abundance of that species in these areas. So the darker purple really mean higher concentrations of that species. So this really is kind of amazing when you look at the timing and the places and the concentration of birds. We're just really starting to develop this three-dimensional picture of where birds are, what they look like, and where they go. So every profile that we provide has an in-depth and authoritative life history. And this authoritative information talks about the bird over its full life cycle. And it can contain up to 70 different articles that cover different aspects of the bird's life history. So let's take a tour of a typical species account. So we're going to take a closer look at the lazuli bunting. The very top of the species account, the landing page, for example, has some really powerful information in it. Of course, we've got the common name and the scientific name. It tells us the IUCN conservation status. This one happens to be least concern. It also gives us, I don't know if you can tell, but this says names. It also gives us different common names for this species across the world. So different cultures call this bird a lot of different things. So we are able to capture that here. Every species account, of course, had to have human effort behind it. So we acknowledge the authors who are behind this information over there behind, underneath that. So there's about 3 authors associated with the species account. Very grateful for their efforts in putting that together. It also provides us with the publishing date, the last published date. With 10,824 species, not every species is up to date today, but we are producing new accounts at somewhere between a pace of 4 to 6 different accounts per week are updated by scientists. And I'll get more into that in a little bit. On the bottom, when this blue area here, these 3 circles, those are what we call the eBird badges. And again, I'm going to mention that later. So I know one of Patsy's favorite things can be found under this blue eye. And if you click on that blue eye, what it's going to do is it's going to pop up a key to scientific names. And that's going to give us the etymology and the meaning of the scientific name for that species. And there's a lot of information that can be found there that people just love. And this was produced by a person called James Jobling, and he's an absolute scholar of bird names, scientific bird names. And he's done so much work to put all this together, and then collaborated with us to make this information available to all. So it's really a fascinating aspect of this information. I want to go back and tell you a little bit more here. So when you click on this major screen, you can go through, this will allow you to cycle through maybe, anywhere from 5 to 10 different images, really key images that are curated by our editors that show us the different life cycles or representative images of different life cycles of the lazuli bunting. Okay, so like maybe 5 to 10 are found here. We've got a couple more here. And then it also gives us a video as well as a sound recording. So this collection is what we call this, I don't know, I think it's a special set or the master set of highly curated images, videos, and sounds that represent that species. So just even, focusing here gives people so much great information about that bird. So as you read on, then you're going to find a lot of that in-depth authoritative information. It starts with appearance, a lot of detail about appearance, such as identification and what similar species you can find with what it might be confused with. And then we also have, so in addition to the appearance, right, we have an entire multimedia section where you can go into more detail and look at the various photos, videos that go way even beyond the curated, the specially curated set, the master set. Now we've got another specially curated set a little bit broader from there, that allows you to, again, put this three-dimensional picture of this bird at every stage of its life cycle. Then the narrative will also tell us a lot about the bird's habitat, not only in its breeding range, right, where we might be most likely to see it, but in its habitat during migration, as well as in the overwintering range. This also gives information, really detailed information about migration, including the timing and routes. And I happen to know wildlife rehabbers, for example, really like to study that section, because if they have birds in their care, they need to understand the best time and place and how to release that bird. So they rely on that kind of information to help them understand. And of course, me as a birder, I'm always wondering, you know, are they back yet? When is it coming? Is this early for this bird to be here, or is it just on time? So there's a lot of information you can look at within Birds of the World to understand whether that bird is timed just right, or if it's early, if it's special, if it's not. And of course, the animated migration map tell us so much as well. The sounds of vocalization section is quite extensive for some species, right? The lazuli bunting has a really complex song, and we have about 2,500 words to describe this song, these song, or what we call the vocal array. So, you know, looking here, we've got some images, the spectrograms. This represents the lazuli bunting, 5 different individuals of lazuli bunting at one location in Montana. So there's a lot of variability that it has. And of course, different age groups of the bird, they're going to have different sounds, you know, the chicks, the peeps, the cheeps. And it talks about the daily pattern of singing, the place of singing, the social context of singing. So, you know, you only need to take away from Birds of the World what you want, but if you need that detail, this is here for you. So these extensive descriptions, when combined with the supporting sound recordings in the multimedia section, help you understand the vocalizations more deeply, and it helps you recognize the songs in the field, but also, which I think is great, helps you develop a shared terminology so that you can describe it to others. And that's important. I'm an e-birder, so I report my sightings, and sometimes I have to describe the song. And sometimes I lack that knowledge really of the common terminology that we use for a particular song. And then I'll read it. I'll read something in Birds of the World. I'll be like, oh, okay, of course, that's what it sounds like. And so this is the accepted language, and it makes sense to me now. So I can better describe it to kind of help verify my sightings as well. So it's very helpful for those reasons. So one of the other sections, of course, is talking about its breeding cycle. It can tell us how and where and when the birds nest. It can talk about the the production of the nest, where it's found, how far off the ground it's found. It could tell us about the eggs, you know, the size, the color, the number. It could tell us about when the bird fledges, when the eggs hatch and then the birds fledge, which is really important for me right now because I have a robin nesting in my garage. And it's really hard every night to know whether I should shut the door or keep it open and allow the raccoons in. It's just kind of funny. So I know now that robins have will fledge within 9 to 16 days. So I've got a large window there that I need to keep the door open so that the female and the fledglings can get out. So there's so many questions I think that we run into as birders that Birds of the World helps us understand, right? These life history questions: where's it nest, how's it nest, things like that. So it's funny when those come up. This chart right here is called an annual cycle of breeding, molt, and migration. And although it looks a little complicated, I would recommend that anyone who does get into Birds of the World learn how to interpret it. And it tells us, again, an annual cycle in a calendar year, starting with January, February, March, April. In a calendar year, what does the pattern of migration look like? What does the pattern of molt look like, and the pattern of breeding? So I'm finding these very useful, again, as I try to interpret what's going outside in this property that I'm on, that I'm trying to rewild, and I'm trying to attract birds. I'm seeing birds. What's their behavior? Is it too early to breed? Is it, is this early or late migration? Is it breeding now? When's it going to hatch? So those kind of questions can be answered with Birds of the World. Of course, there's a whole body of behaviors that various birds have, and that we enjoy, such as territorial or courtship displays, social behaviors such as lecking for a grouse, for example, flight behaviors, preening behaviors, interspecific behaviors, and lots more. So we provide information on that, not only the narratives, but with supporting multimedia whenever we have that available to us. We also provide information on what a bird eats and how it finds its food, as well as systematics. Now we're kind of veering off lazuli bunting right now because it doesn't have any subspecies, but what we have here, what I'm showing you here, is subspecies information for the capped white-eye, okay? It recognizes 2 different subspecies, and what we provide is a scientific illustration for that subspecies, for both of them, as well as distribution information. Where can you find this? Is there overlap between the subspecies, or they have distinct ranges? And how to identify it better, as well as the scientific name, of course. And if you like, you can just click here to go, it says eBird map, and so you can click over to see where observations of eBird have been localized for this species, as well as photos or recordings. So if you're a person kind of ready to take your birding to the next level by identifying subspecies, this is going to be really helpful in doing so. We also provide information on conservation and management of each species, as well as priorities for future research. And of course, because this is a scholarly reference tool, everything that we provide within Birds of the World is referenced. So we have, I don't know, we might have 1 million references. I know the Golden Eagle account has 700 and some references alone. So we really have a lot of references. And this is what the authors of this material look to in order to bring information in. So you're assured that this information has been summarized from the primary literature. And the references are quite easy to understand as well. So if you see that number 331 under, right here, okay, 330 or 331, all you need to do is hover over it. It's called an inline reference, and then it pops up for you. So it's really, I guess, convenient way for people to understand references. And for anyone really to understand the people at work, the scientists at work, and bringing this information together. So, at the end of the day, Birds of the World is helping you expand your knowledge of birds, learn songs, calls, and identification. It improves your birding skills, helps you recognize subspecies, helps you discover where birds are and where they go. But it also can facilitate birding travel at home and abroad. And that's if you are an eBirder. So I'm just going to show you how that fits together, because I know there are a lot of eBirders out there. Of course, I love eBird. I think it's amazing. So it's not a hard sell, but I want to show you what can happen. So again, I've been eBirding for almost 20 years, since the beginning. And I happened to have a great opportunity to go to Uganda a couple of years back, right before the pandemic. And so if you see these blue circles here, this is called what we call the eBird badges. And this shows me that I was able to see and photograph the shoebill. I did not take a sound recording of it, though. It was really hard to see. And it was, it was being very quiet. But it was a fantastic bird, really enigmatic, and it's an experience I'll never forget. So how do we record this experience and kind of bring the stories of this bird together with my sighting? So when I go through Birds of the World species accounts, if I've seen the bird, it highlights. So it's almost like a different way of viewing my world checklist, okay? So I can click on that one of these blue badges. I'm going to click on the scene, and that can take me to the eBird checklist, or the list of a list of checklists where I've seen that bird before. So with the shoebill, I've only seen it once at one location in November 2016 at Mambamba Swamp in Uganda. Very common place to see it. And if I click on the checklist date, November 7th, 2016, I can actually go and see the entire checklist of all the other birds I've seen there, but it also hear my dog. But I could also click on the image that I took that day. So this particular image happens to be mine. So in essence, this whole system allows me to record and explore my life's birding legacy, which is really important to me, helps me keep everything in one place. And, this works for birds far away as well as close as well. So there's one more benefit of this linkage, this integration of Birds of the World with eBird and Macaulay Library, and I'll show you here. When you're looking at a typical species account, we have a stats bar that shows the number of assets that we have, whether it's a data asset, a data observation, or a photo, a recording, or a video, how many assets that we have elsewhere in the repository. So this shows me that eBird has 907 public observations of the shoebill in it. So if I click here, then I will be taken off to all of those checklists that are public. Then I can review who's seen it and where. If I click on the photos button, I get taken to the Macaulay Library, where I can view all the photos that have been submitted of shoebill. So the Macaulay Library frame, is a free resource where you can view these separately. But when we bring these curated assets into Birds of the World, we're able to provide context and explanation of the top-rated images. So yeah, but we do have linkages to these other free resources. So all this integration, I think, is really working, fantastically for birders, helps you keep everything together. It does a lot to improve the birding experience, if you don't mind a little technology. So eBird and Birds of the World definitely document my birding life, and the stories of the birds are told through Birds of the World. Of course, behind the scenes, it's super challenging to make this work gracefully. So that's one of the reasons we've had to put a price on access. But it's a modest price, and every single dollar goes back into the project to help us deliver more content, grow the content, make sure that everything's working as it should, to give people a decent experience online and make sure that they're learning from it. But we also offer it for free to researchers and conservationists in under-resourced countries through our digital access scholarship program. So we're able to kind of walk the line there, just make sure that researchers in really highly diverse, biodiverse areas are able to access it. So as you might imagine, this is a very large resource, hundreds of thousands of pages, so there's a lot behind it. And as you might imagine, to be an accurate reflection of the current science, our work is ongoing, and it may never be done. And as I said before, we do have ongoing updates. A team of ornithologists work together, and we release about 4 to 6 different revised accounts every week. And we're trying to build out an editorial team that can make that happen even faster. So again, we're building teams, and we're growing content. This is kind of what the team looks like now. There's a body of more than 2,000 people who have authored the content, and they've done this of their own volition. These are great volunteers, scientists in the field who have contributed to the scholarly resource so that it can help others. We also work with content partners around the world, organizations that have a lot of regional expertise and knowledge about birds that can help us help bring that to birds of the world, because, you know, us sitting in Ithaca, New York, there's a lot we don't know. And we need to basically branch out, work with this global team to bring the best expertise possible. We also have a team of associate editors. This is a small team of contractors who work with us. They're, again, placed globally, and what they do is wrangle authors and help edit content and kind of just, again, keep that funnel of content, keep narrowing the funnel of content so that we can get it out to our science editors and produce a complete species account. We also have this wonderful grade A team of volunteer copy editors who are three retired women who are previous professionals in this area, and are just absolutely fantastic technical writers and readers, and help us do that. They provide really an essential service. We are very grateful to them. And then we have a team of science editors at the lab. There's just 5 of us who then are able to do the last review and then make sure everything is together, all the images, all the maps are right, and then push it out to the team. So that's how, that's what Birds of the World is. It's how it works and how it's growing. So now I want to give you a sense of how this connects to the lab's larger conservation mission. As Patsy mentioned before, there's a great need to bend the curve for birds. And what do we mean by that? Since 1970 to 2020, more than 2.9 billion birds have been lost. These are breeding birds of both the US and Canada. And this loss has occurred across every ecosystem and includes familiar birds. And the loss is indicative of just a larger, broader biodiversity crisis across the world that's also hitting insects, amphibians, and other wildlife. And this disappearance is even common in even common species. It indicates this shift in our ecosystem's ability to support basic bird life. And we know that birds are harbingers of things to come. They're the canary in the coal mine. So if something's wrong with them, we know that something can be wrong with us. So why are populations crashing? There's a lot of reasons, and there's a complex, stew of forces working against them. But they might include, we've seen reproductive success of birds is diminishing for various reasons. There's habitat loss and degradation, outdoor cats, both feral and domestic, collisions with buildings and cell towers, and climate change is exacerbating all these effects and will only get worse. So if you ever wonder what the lab is doing during our downtime, we're thinking about this. How can we magnify the tools that we've developed to help bend the curve in the right direction? So the lab has approached this biodiversity crisis in many ways. And one way is through our various citizen science projects, because we know that engaged communities, when combined with science and technology, can help us and others accomplish conservation at scale. So you might have heard, or probably have heard of the 3 most popular citizen science projects at the lab, or among the most popular. There's the Merlin Bird ID app. That's a free app you can put in your phone that helps you identify birds. There's eBird, the bird observation checklist program, as well as Macaulay Library, which was the Wildlife Media Archive. And so the development and integration of these 4 projects over the last of these 3 projects over the last 5 years has powered major growth in data that helps us interpret the world. It spawned more than 250 peer-reviewed publications, and it's helped partners accomplish local and specific conservation objectives. And of course, it's enabled some of the best features within Birds of the World that I showed earlier. So back in 2015, the lab began a serious effort to deeply integrate these 3 projects. And now we have eBird observations feeding high-resolution maps to Birds of the World and Merlin. eBird media uploads are feeding the Macaulay Library. The Macaulay Library media is piped out to Birds of the World, eBird and Merlin Bird ID app. And Merlin happens to be building new bird watchers. It's such a popular app. I think at least $4 million downloads worldwide. It's recruiting new eBirders and new partners in the fight to save birds who submit new data and new media every day. So it's not about the numbers just for the sake of numbers. It's really about the power of what all of these people and the data that they produce can do. So it's essentially helping us build a life history data enterprise that allows scientists to address ecological research questions at scale. And these positive feedback loops have led to an explosive growth in the data and multimedia. So let's just look at how participation has increased in the last 5 years. eBird started about 20 years ago, and they're growing by an average about 20% over the previous year. So we reached about 1 million different eBirders. We reached that milestone recently. And this represents more than 60 million hours of effort in the field. These are people who are just enjoying birds and loving to document what they see. And they're the eyes and ears of scientists on the ground. Whether they know it or not, whether they care about that or not, this is what they're allowing, what they are doing. And we have achieved from 2015 to 2001, 1.15 billion bird observations. So during this time, we just got to that milestone recently. And during the same time, the Macaulay Library has experienced significant growth in its wildlife media collection. So by the end of 2021, users had archived 1.2 million different audio recordings and 33 million photographs. And so what this means is that for more than 76% of the world's bird species, we have curated media sets, we have curated media sets for 76% of the world's birds, which is about 8,300 different species. So because of all of this, we're able to measure with greater accuracy than ever before how birds move across the earth in space and time, and what they sound and look like doing it. So if you're helping contribute to the lab, thank you very much. It's really going somewhere. So again, we see Birds of the World not just as a website, but as this global collaboration of scientists, birders, and media contributors that are focused on building the world's leading collection of scholarly avian life histories. And we are organizing this chart so that we can help others all around the world put science to action and make a difference to birds, because that conservation at scale is the goal. So now I want to show you a little bit about how our subscribers and partners are using Birds of the World and this data in their own conservation projects. We recently conducted a subscriber survey, and we asked specifically, how are you using Birds of the World? What is it allowing you to do? And we heard some amazing things. And here's a few over here. I use your species accounts to model the impact of marine oil spills. This work enables oil companies, governments, and NGOs to plan local oil spill response strategies. That really surprised me. We use this tool to help plan and schedule multi-million-dollar construction projects that span large natural areas. This tool helps us protect and conserve bird populations. Birds of the World is useful to plan monitoring and habitat enhancement at the Veracruz River Raptors Project. And another wildlife rescue says we provide critical care for more than 800 rescued rappers per year of 35 species. And the information helps our staff better care for the birds as well as help educate visitors. Excuse me. So the lab is also working with regional partners who share our mission to engage communities as we do and to advocate for birds in their habitats. These international partners are essential to our ability to generate the quantity of data needed to power these various tools and develop the analytics, but they're also essential to our data quality goals, right? In order to help scientists, we need the data to be accurate, And they provide this leadership and mentoring that's necessary in order to teach people about birds, excite them to get out and monitor their birds, submit their data to eBird or their art, their photos to Macaulay Library. And they help us just make sure that we have a sound product in the end. And some of these partners have also become a content partner within Birds of the World. And a great example of this is BirdCount India. BirdCount India is a large birding organization in India, and they're using the full suite of Cornell Lab tools in order to achieve their mission of bird conservation. They have a large number of engaged birders, and their eBird participation has exploded over the last 10 years and is producing great results. They formed a team of 25 academic authors that helps us update species accounts. And in return for that, we are providing open access to their registered users. So they're really helping us power content development in a way that matters. And again, providing that local expertise that we don't have. They've also produced actionable data and state of the birds reports to help conserve birds and habitats. And we're learning how to extend this content for access model to new regions and to forge partnerships with similar conservation outcomes. So again, if you're ever wondering what we do during our downtime, it's really just about thinking about how we can just bend the curve for birds in a positive direction. But it's going to take all of us working together in order to see birds on the road to recovery in the next 10 to 20 years. It's a long game. We have high hopes, but we know that engaging all of us and getting people to love birds and care about them is an important thing. So we place hope on the wings of science and bird enthusiasts like you, and we believe that both will take us there. So I hope that I've given you a sense of what Birds of the World truly is, its capacity to help you learn more about birds and how you can get the most of it. And I also, again, want to thank anyone in the audience who's participated or involved in this project or any of the other lab projects in any way. What you're doing all matters and is put to good use at the lab. So I want to turn it over to you for questions, but first let you know about the special opportunity you have here. If you're interested in subscribing to Birds of the World, the subscriptions are $49 per year, but you can save 15% on your first 3 billing cycles by using our discount coupon called Texas Audubon, all caps. If you go to the website and click on subscribe and go through the process, you'll have to create or enter your Cornell Lab account, and through the checkout process, there's a little place you can redeem coupons. So thank you for coming. That's just a little gift to Texas Audubon. I thank you, Patsy, and everyone for being here tonight.
Well, I don't know about the rest of the people in the audience, but I use Birds of the World a lot. And I'm still overwhelmed every time I hear all the work, I think of all those people out sweating in the jungle and netting birds and doing all the things that provide the basic science. Mm-hmm. And the last slide where we place our hope on the wings of science, I think that just says it all. Well, we had some really good questions. Laura, thank you so much. You're a wonderful presenter and a wonderful ambassador for the lab, as I knew you were because I've seen you before, but now everyone else can spread the word, and I hope you get other invitations to come and speak to other groups, both in Texas and otherwise. Here's some questions. I'll just kind of go whizzing through them here. Okay, somebody said they didn't see the link about recovering America's wildlife. I will place it in there again. Thank you. But you can just Google Recovering America's Wildlife Act, National Wildlife Federation, and also find it there, but I'll drop it in there in just a minute. It says, on the animated migration map, what are the gray spots that fluctuate in Mexico? There was a little kind of a shadow that would come in and out. Can you explain those?
Yeah, so that indicates coverage or non-coverage of the area. So if there hasn't been any birders reporting from that area, then I think it's the white, but the gray, I'm not sure if I have it reversed, but I think that's the white is where there were no birders at that time, but then gray might be people who were reporting but not reporting that species.
Okay, so it just indicates that there's an opportunity there for birders to go and contribute. Is that right? Okay. Make a birding trip. And just a reflection that I have to share. This is so incredibly impressive. How many years did this take to produce? If I missed the answer to this, I apologize. Well, I think you've given us kind of an overview, but what would you say would be the cumulative?
Wow.
Is there any estimate in hours?
Oh, wow. No. Well, it's been, in some ways decades in the making, right? Because this was the 4 resources that we were able to bring together. And these resources were produced by a variety of people. Again, always counting on the authors that were brought together to produce them originally. But Handbook of Birds of the World was the 17-volume set that sat on a shelf, and then it was put to digital. And then at some point, then in 2020, we brought it on. There was Birds of North America, which was a 13-volume set on the shelf that we put to the internet, I think around 2005. So all of this material has been accumulating for a while, and then we got it in sometime in 2019. And I just love our tech team so much. I'm really impressed. They were able to absorb that information and spit it out in this great platform within, I think, less than a year. So just a lot of work from a lot of people. So many people to thank.
I think that would be saying a mouthful with a few words, because if you'll excuse me just a minute, I'm going to go ahead and drop that link in the app, in the chat for the people who were asking about it. There it is again. So as a user myself, I write up the birds for the San Antonio Zoo, among other animal groups. And we used to have the whole set, but it wasn't a whole set when I first started. So if I wanted to write up a bird that hadn't been published yet, I had to go through all these different books and journals and all that. And they would let me take one of these books is like this big, and it weighed a ton. I could take one home at a time. I can only keep it 3 days. And then I had to schlep it back to the zoo library and do all my work in between. Well, this is magical because all I have to do is sit at my desk and tune in to all the information that anybody knows that they're sharing. Anybody knows. And if anything new comes out, I find that Cornell Lab is really good. If you're a member of Cornell Lab, which is a great way to support the lab, become a member, and you get emails that say, we're going to have a webinar and it's going to be about this and it's going to be about that, and you can get involved. And they'll tell you news of maybe a new bird that's been found where they didn't think it was anymore, or all kinds of good information that you might be interested in. So just not having to carry all those books and to have it right on your desktop. And that brings another question.
Plus it's updated.
Yeah, and once you do a book, it's immediately out of date. And of course, even though every species is not updated automatically in Birds of the World, it's done, if there's something significant, it'll probably be pushed up the list if somebody's found something significant, and it stays pretty updated. And all the eBird stuff is timely because we're putting in stuff all the time. Those maps get fed by that data and they're updated all the time. So you've got the latest, greatest resource at your fingertips. Now, I hope that answer gives you an idea, Aubrey, of the amount of work. And anybody that's ever worked with computers, you try to put information from 4 different sources in and try to make them all play well together. and play nice and work together, it is a gargantuan task. And they've got some geniuses up at the lab that just eat that stuff with a spoon and love it and do it so well. It's amazing how fast they can do some of this stuff. So we have the questionnaire, and I think you've answered that. It's Birds of the World, an app or a website. And right now it is only available
as a website.
As a website, but you can put it on your phone, a shortcut, and get to it. If you've got connectivity, you can put a shortcut on your phone and get to it from a phone, but
Right.
it's not an app.
Right. So the website is mobile friendly. You'll be able to read it okay on a phone, but it's not built for phone. It's not the most graceful experience on a phone, just because the volume of content that we have and the number of assets that we have to deliver to it it's not going to work for everybody in every situation. But if you have great internet, it could work for you. But,
and the eBird itself has some good write-ups of the species, a lot of the species that you can get to from your phone.
Mhm.
So, and Merlin and so forth. So, and of course the subscription, if you repeat that, it was $29.
So a year subscription is $49. You could test it out for $7.99, but the coupon that I offered, the discount coupon, the Texas Audubon, all caps, no space, that is for 15% off your first 3 billing cycles for Birds of the World annual subscription. So,
all right, that's
yeah, so
wonderful.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Okay, I'll put that in the chat as well. Here's another good question. I hope that answers the question. It is a subscription. And if you are a representative of a library or like a nature center or whatever, you can contact the lab and they can give you some specialty type access for that. But for individuals.
Right. So there's personal subscriptions, but then we also have institutional subscriptions. So you'll find Birds of the World and a lot of, hundreds of colleges, universities worldwide. And we also are available in some nonprofits. So if you represent a nonprofit and would like to work with us, then I'd be happy to talk with you about pricing that out.
Well, here's a good question from Norma. Do you know if any new species of birds have been discovered or species that were thought to extinct have been rediscovered through citizen science?
Well, there's this interesting, we discover, we meaning the larger scientific community is able to discover things frequently. And definitely this happens. I can't give you an explanation right off the bat, but there is this blog post that we put on our website about this one Russian student. I think he's at a college in Florida or just graduated, and he went to do some research in Russia, and he found some fascinating information about a shorebird, a shorebird that was very rare. And he found out that this species nests in trees. And he was able to be the first description of that nest for that species. And it was just, kind of fascinating that he was able to do that. And then his professor reached out to us and said, "Are you interested in this information?" And we said, "Absolutely. Please work with us. We'd love to have your student give us information about what he found, help us contribute to this species account." But, so things like that do happen a lot. I don't have anything specific about new species in my head right now, though. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you that there's been a lot of birds that the range has been clarified. Birds, and of course, Climate Watch, those of you who are involved in Climate Watch, we're doing surveys here in our region. And one of the purposes is to see what birds are doing in response to changes in the climate. And for us to be out there surveying and everybody birding and everybody putting their observations in eBird will all of a sudden redraw the maps. If the birds are moving up a mountain or north or whichever way they are moving, we will redraw the maps by our eBird, and that will help the scientists to know where they need to conserve property for those birds that are moving into new areas looking for habitat. And so if you're doing that, you're performing a really valuable service. That's an Audubon community science project, the Climate Watch surveys. So,
Right.
and all of it's done with eBird. You know, all of our observations and data go in through eBird.
Yeah, so we say our job is to stimulate the community to engage with birds, to we give the tools for us to accept the data that they're seeing in the field. And then we provide it then to scientists in a variety of different ways. And we provide it to policymakers. You know, in my survey, I heard from several policymakers that said it just helps us provide, you know, it helps us provide arguments that support policies regarding bird protection. So yeah, it all has it really has a life beyond, you know, when you click submit, it has a great life beyond that and really helps contribute to conservation and policy and protection worldwide.
It all connects, just like
Mhm.
ecosystems, as we know. So
Right.
everybody here, anything you do along these lines, please know that it helps not only the scientists at the Cornell Lab and conservationists everywhere, but also the birds themselves. And that's very important to all of us. And I wanted, if anyone would like to ask a question at this point, you can certainly unmute yourself and ask it live. And you can turn on your camera if you'd like. Are there any questions from the floor? Okay, here's Lois from California.
You mentioned that that this was being recorded. Is the recording going to be available to everyone or only to club members?
It will be available to everyone on the Vimeo channel. And what we'll do probably tomorrow, that's one of my jobs, is I'll process the recording. And I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to mention, not only will the recording be available, but anything that's in the chat, like these links that are in the chat, I will put those in the description of the video. So if there's things that you want to access afterwards, you don't have to be trying to write it all out or copy it or whatever. So all of that will be ready by no later than Friday. So if you go to the Bear Audubon website, which is, I'm going to put that in there right now, just BAXAR, not T, AUDUBON.org. That's our website. And go to the meetings tab. It will say, in case you missed it at the bottom, you click on that, it'll take you to the Vimeo channel. You can see the presentation again and the links that were in the presentation. Okay, anyone else? Does that answer your question, Lois? Okay. Okay, here's Aubrey.
I'm sorry. I have one question. So I am really new to, I guess, birding in general, but I'm getting really into it and addicted. So as far as like posting to eBird and things, if I don't really know what I'm looking at, I mean, do I still want to post something? And I don't want, I mean, I'm embarrassed, I guess.
Yeah, well, I would recommend that you make sure you have the Merlin Bird ID app, and that'll help you because what that does is allows you to identify a species based on 5. It helps you. It's not like a sure thing every single time. So you have to weigh, you know, but it provides you this method of identifying species based on 5 easy questions about what it's doing, where it's at, what color it is. So that's a good start. Right. And when you start to feel sure of your identifications, then you might want to graduate to eBird. You could try now, but you might make a few mistakes.
Right.
We have regional reviewers who work in every region, every county, right? And it's their job to review the quality of the data. So if you happened to add a bird that was really far out of line, then you might get an email saying, hi, you know, can you give me any more information on this? Because it really doesn't fit the pattern of the bird that we'd expect. Okay. And never feel that you're, you know, bad about that. We're all learning. We understand that. It's just that we do have to have these people who, you know, protect the data quality. And so I think it's never too early to start. And, just remember that on the other side, you might get an email at some point if somebody questions it,
Yeah, and they don't give you an A- or a B- or any of that. They help you learn. They actually help you learn by saying, well, it could be, sometimes they'll
Can you hear me?
recommend that it could have been this rather than what you reported. And that all of that helps us learn. And you know what? The birds don't care what we call them. No bird will be, you're not going to harm a bird because you didn't identify it. And I'm getting a message that my internet is going a little unstable here. I hope I haven't lost anybody. Hello, anybody out there? Okay. Well, I apologize if we've gotten frozen and something's happened here. Hello? Okay, we may have a technical difficulty. Well, I'm glad.
Welcome back, Patsy. I think your microphone's off. I think everybody's microphone's off.
I think so. Patsy, your microphone is off. Nope, you're still muted. And now Lois is muted.
Okay.
I muted myself. Yeah.
Now you're
Okay.
good.
I don't know what happened, but I apologize. Sometimes
Resurrected.
The Zoom gods get us. So it is time now for us to part. And you have one more question, Lois?
Well, I just wanted to, I don't know if Audrey can still hear us, but I just wanted to say, the best way to be sure of your identification is go on a bird walk with a bunch of people who know what they're doing. And no, seriously.
I'd love to. I would
You
love to.
can go, I see a bird in that bush, and you don't have to say anything more. They'll just go, oh yeah, well this is this. They'll have scopes, they'll have,
Right.
there'll be people in the back going, and Aubrey, and this is what it looks like.
I love it.
People are so friendly and so helpful. And there are so many bird walks that you can go on.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
That is such a
100%.
wonderful comment, Lois. And we'll find that most birders are really helpful. They're teachers at heart. They're so excited about what they're doing, and they're always happy to bring another birder into the flock, you might say.
In fact, another.
And so check out Bear Audubon.
For sure. I think I joined today.
Oh, awesome. And we do have bird walks. And
Awesome.
when you see one announced, you'll be getting emails about it if you join. And if you see one, sign up quick, because we do limit the number that could go in one time to make it a better experience for everyone. And we look forward to seeing you. We have binoculars to loan, and if you need them, just let us know. So we'll have those for you.
Okay,
So
thank you so much. Love this.
It's been a pleasure. And I do want to say, Lois has put in the chat that she is going to be hosting a new show in California called Birding with Lois. And you can look it up on the YouTube channel and see the shows that have already been on and what she's going to be doing every other week. Is that right, Lois?
That's right. And I'm hoping that I can get Patsy and Laura to come on and talk with me someday, because I would love to interview you.
Well,
Absolutely.
anybody that says love to interview you, we would love to consider it. So please keep in touch. And any final words, Laura, that you'd like to say?
No, I just really appreciate the time to explain, tell you a little bit more about what we're doing. So thank you so much, Patsy and Bear Audubon. I appreciate being here.
Okay, very good. And thanks to everyone who attended tonight. And if any other questions come to your mind after the program, which can happen, just send them our way, and we'll either try to answer them ourselves, or we'll send them on up to Laura and let her answer those if she would be so kind. So we wish you all a very good evening. And I know it's an hour later up in New York, so it's getting dark up there. And get out and go birding, and use Merlin, use eBird, get involved with these tools that help you help the birds. So with that, we'll say good night and happy birding.
Good night, everyone. Thanks.
Night night.
Bye-bye.